Привет из Сингапура! С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about genetics and let's start with the definition.
Genetics, it is a great science and it is a great mystery of our century. It was like a fairy tale when scientists all over the world, they were trying to decrypt our DNA and everyone was happy to know that it is already finished. The DNA help to transfer information about one species to another. And it is when we're trying to think about our weight, about our attention to alcohol, or for example, with we think about diseases. This is about our DNA. It's about our genetics.
So what are the fundamentals or even principles of this science and skill?
There are several. First is that some our черты, details,
Threats.
some of
Threats.
our threads are given for us by our parents, and the color of the eyes and the type of the body, and maybe also some abilities to do the music, or for example to sport, are transferred from one generation to another generation. Second, we depend from our genetics, but we could improve it. For example, there are a lot of different sayings between the people. Our parents, my mother or my father, were fat and I would be fat. But it is not true. In our DNA, we have a lot of features, not just humans, but also some dinosaurs, some monkeys, some bears, some cats. So our DNA is quite impressive archive of all species which are our predecessors. And third one, when we know genetics, we could understand what we should avoid. For example, we know that brothers and sisters should not go for the marriage because people would be вырождаться. How to say вырождаться?
Retarded.
You could be retarded, and will be not good for our bodies and for our spirit and about our brain.
And when it comes to applying the knowledge of the genetics, what kind of the levels of the masteries exist out there?
Let me remind some Russian anecdote. There is a teacher was sitting in the city train, and suddenly she saw a guy who was his pupil, and his wife and his daughter, and he was thinking inside her brain, how is lucky my pupil that he was not listening to my lectures, because his wife has gray eyes, his daughter has gray eyes, but he is brown one. From the genetics point of view, it is impossible. So he is not the father of this little girl. If you know something, you will use it in your life, and it is good to know. Second, we already talked about some kind of заблуждений.
Misconceptions.
Misconceptions. Yes, thank you. When we think that we should be very similar to our parents.
Similar.
No, for example, my father and my grandfather is very fat, and I am happy not to be fat. I run, I do my sport, not thinking about genetics. You could overcome a lot of features which are not likely in your life. And third one, genetics will follow you to the same diseases and your relatives, so you should inspect your medical stages. For example, after 25 years, each year or 2 years, depends of how hard diseases your relatives has.
Somehow it also reminds me of these words when some of the families would say, we just have a heavy bones. So hence, that's the explanation, not the tons of the Coca-Cola or anything like that. It's just the weight. So in terms of the mistakes people may make in order to, when they're trying to apply the science or maybe learn about it, what would they be?
First kind of mistake is to be to be like a hostage of your own gene. So you will just say that you couldn't done anything. In any case, you will get the same result as your parents. It is not true because we depend of our genetics not more than for 2%. Second, we read a lot of different articles about some kind of British scientist or some else who is given some predictions about what will happen if you have some diseases or some specialities in your mother and father. It also has a probability in percentage, but it is not 100%. And the last thing I would remind that genetics, it is not an приговор. How to say приговор?
Verdict.
It is not a verdict. It is yes, it is the road you could go if you will do nothing. But don't think that your destiny is the only one way you could go. You could bend the space, as we have already told with Maxim in our previous podcast.
And obviously, I want to ask about the future of genetics, and maybe let me be slightly more specific. Let's just like put it into different buckets. What is the future in terms of the recognizing certain genes, or maybe the connections, or maybe the consequences, or maybe the way of they will be used, and how humanity could modify it for themselves, or maybe for something, for some situations or cases when they will need to create something conceptually new.
I'm happy to know that already for 8 years, School of Troubleshooters are conducting the lectures, and a lot of our pupils come to us and ask some very live question. And there were several couples which was unable to be pregnant, and they come to us and ask to find the doctors. Okay, I don't know deeply what is happening, but as I heard from these couples that they have some probability of syndromes which are not allowing them to have a babies, because their babies will have some misleads in the bodies and so on. And we found some great scientists, Russian ones, Ukrainian ones, and they know how to avoid this dangerous crossroads. And I was happy to know this. There is some medical preparation of the father and the mother. There are some chemical treatments which could be applied for a very short time to make our future babies healthy. And this was a great news for me, because I was thinking, okay, if, for example, I would be in this situation, or my daughter would be in this situation, you have a wife or you have a husband, so you have a spouse, and you are not allowed to have a babies. It is a disaster. But suddenly I realized that humankind already working on it.
And actually, maybe to extend this question slightly a bit more, what might be the potential future of using this genetics like in the personal life? Meaning, for example, let's say you meet someone, there is a certain device or service like that would help you to run all of these tests automatically to give you the necessary information about the person you may meet.
You know, this is a great one. I know a lot of people who are very rich, and they are asking for newcomers in their family to be medically tested. And I was always thinking, okay, if, for example, I will meet some girl and she will ask me to go to hospital before meeting me, and I was thinking, what is strange. But now when I am a father and maybe should be in nearest future be a grandfather, now I know that this is the right way. But there are not too much devices or gadgets we have that could help us to understand the health of the people. For example, yes, we have smartwatches, but they could measure temperature or blood pressure, but nothing more. So I do not know nothing about it. By the way, I remember also one point I missed the previous question you asked me. I was speaking with some academics who are virusologists. It was like a half year ago or maybe more. And I asked them if it is possible that all people on the planet will die because of COVID. And this person was very old, gray and gray hair. And he was laughing and say, come on, not more than 10% would go to the grave because our genes constructed in such way that not many percent of the population will be impacted by a single virus.
Well, this is something definitely interesting. My last question will be how knowing about genetics could help to make this world a better place.
Maxim, 5 years ago, I was thinking, if we will decrypt our DNA and will understand our genetics, there is several points which was distracting me. For example, insurance company will not issue the policies to the people who has heart diseases, which is okay from mathematical point of view, but this is not okay from the human point of view. But suddenly it doesn't happen. So genetics will serve us when it is secret for the family, but not an open book for everyone around.
А мы рассмотрели навык генетика и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!